Hello, it's Brenda Wood again, and I'm here with Juan Rolon, and he has done time. He's also a survivor, and I'm going to let him tell us a little bit about his story, his background, and what he's doing now. So, Juan, why don't you tell us a little bit about your childhood growing up?
Um, yeah, I'm a Trenton, New Jersey native. I'm born and raised in the projects, Kearney Homes. Um, my household was more or less considered to be dysfunctional, only because my biological father was missing. My mother, in the beginning, was a hardworking woman, never dealt with drugs, anything. When they speak about dysfunctional family, they mainly concerned about substance abuse being in the household. I think that my biological father played that role as an addict. I never met him until the age of 31. So my role in that household with my mother being a single parent, always at work, I became the mascot. Always been the person that goes to school and think everything is a joke, class clown. You know, always in trouble with the school being suspended, fighting in school, cutting class, being chased around by the truant officers, mother having to get out of work to come get me from the board of education, sometimes the police station, because I always wanted to do stuff that made it to be seem fun, but more or less still the consequences because I was breaking the law. Um, it wasn't until the age of 13, 14 where I decided to no longer play around in the school's hallways anymore. Um, I was directed to the streets. I started selling my first drug out there at the age of 14. And then
Mm.
around that same time, I got involved with, experimenting with marijuana use, which became a habit of mine, with marijuana and selling drugs at the same time, and hiding from my mother because my mother never ever, condoned any of these negative behaviors. So I was constantly running around the streets, running away from home because my mother didn't condone my behavior, but it was something that I was gonna do anyway at that particular moment, which led me to go to juvenile hall, which led me go to a residential program, Ocean Fields, is in Forked River, New Jersey. Around the age of 14, 15, I was there for uh, quite a while. I was there for quite a while. From there, went right back home, right back to the streets again, because I grew up in a neighborhood where that was all it was to do. I first started off playing basketball with everybody that I grew up with. Then after a while,
You
looked
went
around
right
on the
back to the
basketball,
same things.
you know, yeah, and it was crazy because again the basketball court was right next to our projects, which is public housing, um, and there was a whole lot of us at one point, where we could run four courts and play and joke around and not worry about what's going on in front of the building. But after a while, you start seeing that people started to disappear. And then sooner or later, it went from a full court play, 5-on-5 to a 2-on-2. Then you start to realize, hey, where everybody go? Not knowing that everybody went to that front of that public housing. When you go over there, what people were doing, they're smoking weed, selling drugs, shooting dice, playing around with females, and et cetera, which all of us took interest in that lifestyle, and that's what drove me really to that lifestyle. Um, it got to the point where from the age of 14 all the way to the age of 18, I think I was probably like 4 months into the age of 18 where I made the biggest mistake in my life, where landed me in prison for 8 years. So I was blessed to have a support system, to have a good lawyer, which I
Did you
because I
have
was
a public
facing.
defender?
No, ma'am. In the process of me being in that lifestyle, the conversations that I was hearing of grown-ups, prior to me being 18, I was hearing the grown-ups talk about the differences between the public defender and a lawyer. No disrespect to any of them. Just speaking off of my conversation and a little personal experience with them. Um, the mindset that we had was that the public defender didn't work as hard. They more or less was working for the prosecutor, more or less for the judge than anything else. Being that they were bombarded by so many other cases, because not everybody that I grew up with had the opportunity to have money for a lawyer. So majority of us was depending, well, let's say the county jail was depending on public defenders. So they was just like, basically shipping us in and shipping us out type of situation. So I was blessed to have a good lawyer. Her name was Robin Lord, she was known in our era to be a notorious lawyer for drug use, for drug dealers and, murderers, etc. So, I was blessed to have her, and she worked out a good deal for me. Well, I ended up
Good.
spending 8 years in prison, which I was probably definitely facing way more time than that. But I was blessed, to just given that. So when I went to prison, that's when my wake up call came, because it was to a point where, I'm no longer seeing my family no more. I'm seeing the same people that I grew up with either being killed in the process of me doing time or actually becoming my bunkies, my roommates or
So you were back involved with them again in a different situation.
in a different situation, yes, which we were put in an environment where they took away our resources and they took away our survival necessities as far as food and limited them. So then I started seeing the how people were actually running around on a unit, like basically going just surviving on their own, taking stuff from people, beating up people, pressuring people. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is insane. Like I was a criminal, but I wasn't too much of an aggressor. I wasn't that type of individual that go around robbing, stealing, and stuff like that. So when I looked at that behavior, I'm like, wait, this can't be the life that I'm going to continue to live. So in that maximum security unit that they placed me in at the age of 18, I took the opportunity to go for the GED program, which I felt because at the end of the day, the way that environment was structured, mind you, the lady would come and you either got a half hour to an hour to ask as many questions as you can to try to prepare you to whatever academics you're trying to improve in, which was not, effective for an
No, it's
individual
not
like me.
effective at all.
You know what I mean? Because now today I understand that repetition is a key for education, but when they were only coming once to 3 times a month, if that, I failed my first try. So it took me up to when I spent 25 months in the county jail going through my trial. My sentencing. And I ended up going to Albert Wagner, which is a Bordentown, New Jersey, for young adults. It was known to be the gladiator school. For those that know,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was known that you have people, at a central reception, scared to go to these places, and here I am, brand new to the situation, on my way there. So when I got there, I just adapted to the situation, and again, I had my mind up a little bit more focused and more trained to, whatever's going to happen to me in this process, I got to come out better than when I'm coming in. So they stuck me into the laundry room to do labor there, and my job was to take wet knots to untie the bed sheets, because people would wrap the sheet around their
They hold
mattress
it on
and
their
tie the
mattress.
knots
Right.
so it won't, so that when they sleep it doesn't come off the mat. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning, cold in the area, and you gotta try to take out the wet knots out, and when you got buckets of these things coming to you. So I didn't like
Horrible
that
job.
job. I didn't like that job at all. So on my way back to my unit, I spoke to an officer. He was right there because my job was next to the school area. So I spoke to the officer. I said, "Hey, excuse me, my name is Mr. Rolon. I'm over here on APOP. Is there a job available here for me? Because I'm not really liking this laundry room thing." He was like, "Right now, I got a guy that's going to be leaving down the line as a porter." I said, "Well, I'd like to have that job if it's possible." He said, "Give me your name." So he gave me his name. I gave him my name, and before you know it, I was on classification. That's when they assigned jobs at. So when I got that job, I come every day, sweep. I got this from my mother, because my mother, her discipline was, you're gonna clean this house. You ain't gonna sit home. So my mother trained me for this opportunity. It's sad to say, in that opportunity to clean. So they liked the way I cleaned, and they liked me. So from there, I went from from a janitor to a teacher's aide assistant. Because in that process of me being a janitor to that teacher's aide assistant, I was able to squeeze myself back into the GED program. So I was getting everything firsthand, being that I was always at the school area. I was able to obtain my GED at that particular prison. I also enrolled into a college course, which I ended up having a 3.98 GPA average with 24 college credits at that particular moment and a
That's
small business
wonderful.
certification. So, and with that being said, I started helping others in that process. And I think that's what basically brought me to where I'll lead you guys in this conversation today. I started helping people, especially people like bilingual, Spanish speaking,
Sure.
Hispanics, where they as well, they wanted to improve in their situation and become a better version of themselves, but the language barrier limited them to how far they can go within that process. So I became a teacher's assistant slash mentor slash tutor individual for those individuals. So I did 3 years down there at Abercy Wagner, and I was hoping to go to get my status to get closer to my family, but what they did was they wanted me to go to a drug treatment therapeutic community residential within the prison system, which led me to a Gateway Foundation at another prison, which I think there it put me to the test of really if I really wanted to change or not. That process right there, from going from Albert C. Wagner to Riverfront State Prison, gave me that opportunity to measure myself as how bad I wanted to change or how far I've gotten from the first time I entered the penal system. So when I got there, I don't know if you're familiar with that type of environment. So here you are coming 3 years in the prison system, going into an environment where the staff are not running the actual program. We are. So when you
Yes,
first
that
come
is
into
true.
this program, you're being greeted by people like me in the same suits that I'm in, and they're taking you to your room, letting you know this is what's going on. We're going to eat at this time, et cetera, et cetera. So in the beginning, I was a little rebellious of the situation because, again, it was something for me to adapt to. You got a person telling you not to talk when you're not supposed to talk, and he got the same color you got on. So I'm like, wait a minute, what are you talking to? You ain't no guard, right? But it comes after a while, you start to adapt to the situation, and you become that person telling somebody, hey, listen, there's no talking in the group. You need to tighten up, or you're going to be written up, right? And now these are inmate versus inmate having conversations like this. So within that process, it taught me how to confront my peers, when they're doing something wrong. Because out there in the drug and criminal lifestyle, you wasn't confronting your peers because they were doing something wrong. You was actually supporting it, enabling it. So this process started to teach me how to be able to identify what was wrong and right and how to confront it. It also gave me the opportunity to deal with humility because at the end of the day, there were times where, I get caught slipping in the program and they put me in front of the house and 100 people were sitting in the chair while I'm being reprimanded on the behavior that I may have displayed.
You learned a lot from that.
Yeah, definitely learned a lot from that. It taught me how to be more tolerant because I was more impulsive when it come to that situation where you're not gonna tell me what to do. I do what I want in a sense, but that right there gave me a structure to like, you know what, you may need to look at other people's perceptions because yours may be distorted. And I come to find out that back then, looking now, my mind was definitely distorted on a lot of views and things that I wish I never, bought into or invested half of my life in. So
Yes,
with that,
we had spoken earlier, and you said that you do not believe that people are a product of their environment, and I agree with you on that. Could you touch a little bit on that before you get into the rest of your story?
yeah, that's deep today. I speak about that all the time now. Once I came to understand this now, I think I may have gotten this educational information from Les Brown. I don't know if you are
I
familiar
do.
with him. Very,
Very
very
good speaker.
inspirational, very impactful individual. You may not know, but he definitely plays a lot of who I am today of the messages that he gave out. But
He's a mentor of a guy that I know that's also a speaker, Dr. Reuben West, and
yeah, that's one of my buckets. That's on my bucket list, is to one day run into Les Brown and thank him for a lot of the things that he gave me as far as detoxifying my mind. But anyway, the product of my environment, I used to buy into that until I kind of like sat down and heard him speak. And it made a lot of sense to me about the fact that we're not a product of our environments, we're a product of our decisions. Because here I take you back to where I grew up at, which was in the urban community, in the project housing. There were a lot of people that were living in the same situation that I was living in, probably even worse. Because again, I told you, my mother never touched a drug. But here we are, I see individuals, whether male or female, will walk right past us while we were in the front housing, selling the drugs, smoking the weed, just being kids. And they were actually on their way to school. They were actually on their way to work. They were bypassing us to go to a friend's house to get out of this situation, to be safe and to be productive citizens. So with that being said, and not only that, look at the people that live in these environments. Not everybody that live in my environment were bad people. My mother wasn't a bad person, right?
right.
My grandmother wasn't a bad person. She lived in the back. My great uncles wasn't a bad person that lived in the back too, in the same development. But the thing about it is that every day they woke up, their decision was to be productive. Their decision was to be leaders, right, and examples. So when it comes to a person saying that they're a product of their environment, especially like I was telling you earlier, especially if you're, I'm gonna give you a cutoff line. Let's say 16 years old. If you're 16 years old and you're just talking about you're a product of your environment, it comes to me like that's just an excuse. It's like saying that, what, everybody's saying and everybody's doing it, why not me? Right?
Yes, that is what they do. They use it as
Right?
an excuse.
And I will hope that if you are out there and you're still believing it, I will hope that you will take this and really view that statement and erase it from your conscience, because that is not the truth. You're a product of your decisions. Whether you're successful in life, whether you're a basketball player. Look how many basketball players and sports and teachers and stuff like that come out of projects.
That's right.
We some good stuff that come out of us. It's just the fact that the decision that we make. Adversity. That's another thing Les Brown said, that adversity presents a man to himself. It depends how you deal with it. So definitely, I would say that I don't agree with that. We're a product of our decision. I mean, our environment.
We all have a choice to make, and that's correct.
Yes.
You can. It's a mindset.
Now, when you're young, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, I can understand that, because you really don't have no control of your situation. But once you have a sense of control of your situation, of your well-being, then that's when I'm talking about right now about you're not a product of your environment, you're a product of your decision. That applies to you. Yeah, definitely. Again, it goes to go. I'm gonna give you a perfect example on how that applied to me as well. When I was down Bordentown, I was put on a unit where, it was a lot of gang. When I was home at first in Trenton, New Jersey, the gang really didn't hit my environment outside as hard as it did when I was in prison. So they were coming in as gang members. Now here go a guy that I grew up with on a basketball team, Weed and C program, 6th grade at middle school. They're coming in there, already gang affiliated, and they're telling me these things about, how this can help, not more or less how this can help, but more or less decorating and trying to sell it to me,
wanting you to continue that life.
Correct. But again, it goes to understand that my decision did not allow me to get involved in that. My decision, because of the fact that I was seeing what was going on within the population I was in while in prison. It was a lot of chaos. I met a lot of good people, though. I'm not going to say every gang member has a bad mind, because there was a lot of good people that I met in prison that were gang affiliated, but still had the sense to be educated, to have the rationale of knowing right from wrong, whether or not they were either consistent or non-consistent, because that's what happens with a lot of us too in prison, is that we know right from wrong. We are educated, but we don't be consistent on applying what we know, So that goes back to what I'm saying about the decision making. So when I maxed out, let me move out of the prison system. I mean, I finished the program. Like I said, I finished the program. Leaving out of that program definitely matured me. I definitely had a lot of help with my counselors. I definitely had a lot of help with my peers while in that program, because I was actually a leader in that program. I was an elder. What an elder is basically it's the police, it's DOC staff, and then the elders within that program. So I was one of the elders, not because of my education and on computers and being able to speak and being bilingual. A lot of this stuff helped me out to be involved in the elder position. So I basically ran the house along with two other individuals. So it brought me up to my leadership skills as well, knowing that I can lead a crowd, knowing that I could feel comfortable speaking what's right. Because a lot of us that come out of these situations, as far as the drug and criminal lifestyle, we're not comfortable of approaching the same people that we was dealing with in the negative world, and showing them like, listen, that's everything that we've been dealing with was distorted. Some people know that, but they're not comfortable enough to want to expose themselves that this is how they feel, because again, they're worried about how they're going to be approached, whether they're going to be ridiculed or stuff like that, because I've seen it happen. I used to be that individual. Oh, you coming home and you telling me all this stuff. All you doing, you just institutionalized, man. Nobody want to hear that stuff you're talking about, right? So that feedback can discourage someone to step or to continue to step into their greatness, and that's basically trying to be consistent on doing the right thing. So when I came home at the age of 25, almost 26, I ended up working as a temp job. I
How
was on
hard was it
parole.
for you to find a job when you got out?
So not long. Only reason is because my uncle. I still remember to this day my uncle. He was working at a temp agency job. I had a couple family members that were working on a temp agency job, but my uncle was the one that told my mother that as soon as he come home, he can come work for this company. It's called Levitt's. They're no longer in business now, and over here they used to be called the furniture store. I worked there for a while. So from there, they were going to close, right? So when they were going to close, my mom was like, I got to continue this momentum because I do not want to backtrack back into them streets. Now, mind you, this is 8 years in prison. Now I'm home. So with that being said, I stayed there. As soon as I heard that they were closing, I went to the One Stop Career Center down here in Trenton, New Jersey, which is a good source, definitely a good source of information that people like us coming out of prison and treatment centers can go and receive help and information. I spoke to a gentleman. I remember he called me to the back, and I gave him a little spiel about my situation, because not everybody that goes there comes out of prison or et cetera. So I gave him my situation, told him I was on parole, and one of my stipulations while on parole was to maintain a job. So he's like, you know what? I'm gonna do you this favor, but I want you to make me proud. Don't disappoint me. So he called up a company, and then that next week, which is probably let's say I went there Thursday, that Monday I was working at this factory. Now this factory was the same people that was feeding me for 8 years. I was loading up the same trucks that were coming to the prison system. I was loading them up. I had a forklift license through that company, and I was filling up 53 footers with all the dry foods and canned goods that were going to all the state prisons within New Jersey. I was there for a
So you're
while.
a felon who is out now, and you have a job loading trucks that are now going into a prison.
The same one, and one of the prisons I used to load the trucks that was going to Bordentown and then going to Riverfront State Prison, which was one of the two prisons that I went to throughout my incarceration. So with that being, I did that. Then I had a couple other survival jobs because it was a temp job, and my whole goal was to continue to work, but more or less try to get, my income to be more, stable. So I had to, go from job to job. So I was blessed to land a job as an operation counselor at a nonprofit organization called CEC, Community Education. They no longer exist no more. They were bought up by another company. But my job there was to be, now check this out. My job was to be an overseer of 120 inmates. So I did the counts, I did urines, I did room checks, I was observing mess movements, I was observing recreation movements, I was observing visiting. Now here I am, a person that just went through a whole life, well, excuse me, a whole 8 years of this type of environment, and was given the opportunity to go into this line of work. It was like, I want to say it wasn't like a dream come true, because it wasn't a dream come true, but it was more or less surprising to me to be able to be in that position.
It was
That
giving you the
job,
experience and the education you needed to go out on your own.
correct. That job, but now that job, I'm gonna say that job right there that I'm explaining to you, basically gave me a way out. And the reason I'm gonna talk about my way out in a second, because that job, what it did was it offered all employees that worked in that center, right, free classes to obtain your CADC, which is the certification of drugs and alcohol counseling. So when I heard that, I ran with it. I went to the human resource. I asked for the paper. I filled it out. I turned it in right there. I didn't take it home. They told me when the class was coming. I was there every Saturday for probably like almost a year. Every Saturday, I was there. I got all my credits. From there, I got all my internship and my supervision all in that same spot. Throughout that process, I was hearing a lot of echoes about that test that's being given by the Consumer Affairs. I heard a lot of nightmares about you don't pass it on the first time, this, that, and the third. Actually, the deputy director of the actual CEC, was impressed to know that I proved him wrong, because he told me, he was one of the ones that told me. He said, "Don't worry about it, Mr. Rolon. Nobody, not many people passes it on the first try." So when he told me that, I just walked away. It really didn't hit me, because I'm not that type of person that'll let something like that really get into me. But it echoed even to the day when I talk about this. I could still hear his voice. I passed it on the first try.
Wow,
So
that says a lot.
I passed it on the first try, and when I did that, I cried. I remember I called my mother, and I cried. Not, I teared, and as I was talking
Right.
to her, because I'm like, wow, this is something big. Because a lot of my coworkers at that particular moment either were dragging their feet on going for this test, was discouraged of taking this test, because it's not an easy process. You got to do a lot. You got to go to school. You got to go to the internship. You got to study. I'm talking about a book
So it
this
wasn't
big.
like the GED where you failed many
Yeah,
times.
yeah, man. You got, it's like this. You know what I mean? And you don't know what to study, right? But the beautiful thing about it is that the people and the things that I'm studying is me. It's me and the people that I'm known. So with that being said, I passed. I moved on. I was blessed to get involved into another nonprofit organization called the Gateway Family Foundation, which to this day, I give them all the salutes in the world, because they also gave me a way out. The next step of my way out. So when I got the job from Gateway, I started walking into the same doors that the correction officers who was observing me for 8 years, I was walking into the same doors.
What did that feel like?
It's surreal. I'm like, wow, this is really happening. I'm taking off my watch, emptying out my pockets, going through the metal detector with the same guards, watching them take their vests off and all this other stuff being checked, right? It was surreal. A lot of getting my hair cuts in the correctional barber shop. I'm not on the unit no more. I'm getting my ODR food from the officer's dining room now.
Big step up.
I'm being called Mr. Rolon, not 509 521C. It was big. So I started working at Mid-State Correctional Facility, which is next to McGuire Air Force Base in Fort Dix. You can also look. I got a footage of that, of me actually teaching a class on YouTube and on my website, empowermenthouse823.org. It actually shows me teaching the class there. And I was blessed to not only be able to share my story with the guys, but more or less to receive the acknowledgement and the appreciation that the population gave me while I was there, because I was there for almost within the population with the first nonprofit to the one I'm talking to you now, all combined with almost 6 to 7 years, right? Within that whole process, and throughout that whole process, I was telling what I'm doing at that particular moment and where I came from, and they love to hear people like us, to give them hope and to let them know that things can get better.
Right.
There is a way, because even to this day, as I speak to you, when guys or gals ask me what I do and where I've been, and they hear that I've been working in the correctional field, they're like, they don't believe me until I show them, like, all right, look online, you see some of the things I've done, and they're like, wow, how did you do that? Don't you got a criminal record? I'm like, yeah, I got a criminal record, but I also got an education, and that plays a big part of education and good credit.
Right. Right. So you
Yeah,
went from being a felon, uneducated, criminal, doing drugs, to getting education, getting out of prison, going back into prison, not as a felon or as an inmate, but to teach and to help others.
correct.
That is
So,
phenomenal.
so that's what I mean about good credit. Like, that's what I told guys. Listen, I got the education. I got good credit now. I started off with that with the empowerment. Excuse me, with the first nonprofit CEC, and then with Gateway Foundation. All that built up my credit, my resume, my references, and now today, I'm working in a different field now. Still a drug and alcohol counselor, right? Teaching, the relapse prevention, the anger management, the basic life skills that individuals need to at least try to stabilize themselves once coming out of adversity dealing with drugs and alcohol. So with all that being said, which it led me to, to starting to think, like, there's a need for people to hear my story and to see the direction that some may have to take, because not everybody has to take my direction of how which way I went, but more or less to know that there is a way. Yours
There
may
is a way.
be your way may take longer than mine. Your way may be faster than mine to get to where you want to get to, as far as not having to think about using drugs, alcohol, or criminality ever again. And that's the whole thing, is that I come to understand that once you identify your way out, then you're going to be good once you stay consistent on developing that and maintaining that once you get there. A lot of individuals that I know I've spoken to as a substance abuse counselor, some of them don't know what is their way out. Some of them do, but don't know how to get there.
That's
Some
a
of them
very
do,
important thing, to find your way out.
correct. Some of them do know what they want, but they have so many obstacles in front of them. Like unhealthy relationships, uh, emotion, having impulsive behavior still. Like, I know some people that talk to you and want the best for themselves, but as soon as they walk away from the desk and go back up on the unit, there's a cold blue going on, and you see him being dragged down to the cell. Like, damn, what just happened? You just
Mhm.
talked the whole hour of how beautiful your vision is, and so it's a lot of things that I want to continue to help out, which bring me to my nonprofit. um
Tell us exactly what it is that nonprofit is called and what it does.
it's called the Empowerment House. It's basically to empower individuals coming out of treatment, coming out of incarceration, and just letting them know that we're out here to help you uh, reinvent yourself so you can become the best version of yourself. You know, also to be that footprint, you know, that voice that people may need, that bridge that people may need to get over that adversity point, you know, because there's a lot of individuals that lifestyle that they lived, they burnt a lot, they damaged a lot,
Right.
you know,
A lot of damage.
a lot of damages. And the reason why I wanted to create this, I am the president of the Empowerment House, and my experience and the love for that experience brought me to bringing this into tuition, knowing that there's a lot of need for help. Now, don't get me wrong, there is help out there, but for where I'm from, I'm not going to speak worldwide. I'm just going to speak for for where I'm from. The population is busting out the seams to the places that are available right now, meaning that it's not as effective. Like, say, for example, you might have a facility that holds 300 people. They're trying to squeeze 400 or 500, or they might the caseload of counselors may be busting out the seams where I may only can hold 20, but they try to make me hold 30. Which, how many people will be left behind as far as the effectiveness of counseling and treatment?
Right.
So instead of finding the fault, I came up with a remedy of the fact that, you know what, I'm going to start my own. Why? Because I've been in one. I've been in a sober living home structure, as far as where I come from, of how it's supposed to look, as far as, giving back uh, responsibilities to these individuals, helping them recreate or strengthen their self-esteem, letting them know the importance of education, letting them know the importance of networking, of positive support, of just, wellness, being able to have that self-care again, the
Right.
importance of maintaining a job, budgeting, simple things like that, keeping a safe, cleaning environment. Because once you start to see that, it gives you a more of a comfortability to want to work on yourself. It's like coming into your house with a dirty house. Like, how you plan on becoming comfortable?
Yeah. Where do you start? Because
Where do
there's
you start?
exactly.
So instead of going to, no, again, I'm not knocking up no other resources, but I'm just speaking off of me. Instead of going into a place where, it's chaos as soon as you walk in. May not be chaos verbally, but the energy, right? But the energy may be chaotic. I mean, you probably can understand that going into a unit. Nobody had to say nothing, but you can feel the energy,
Absolutely.
right? So my empowerment house is about, just having that family household energy type of stuff. Like when you walk in, you're like, yeah, this is where I want to be. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to unpack.
And if you want to be there, then you're going to do well.
That's right. And again, and you have to, it goes with saying, like, it's a self-help situation. My program, excuse me, the empowerment, I like to say the empowerment house. I don't want to be entitled to say mine. The empowerment house is just basically saying our philosophy is self-help in the sense of, we're the passengers in your life. You're the driver. You decide, or you let us know where you want to go. And as long as that we can agree that where you want to go is safe for you, then we're gonna play that passenger side and encourage you to stay consistent on that lane for you to get there.
So how
Because
can people help you with the Empowerment House? What can the public do that would help you to help others?
well, one, I'm definitely, like I was telling you earlier, I'm looking for a grant writer right now, to be honest with you,
Okay.
to receive my first building. And 'cause we're doing a lot of community services right now, community events. Again, you can look on us on Empowerment House website. There's a lot of information on it that we're planning on doing, and we have done thus far. Just supporting us in the sense of giving us information that can probably help us out, becoming part of our network, helping us out, with fundraising ideas, just spreading the word out to know that we're out here, because that's another big thing that people coming out of prisons and treatment centers may not know. If I could tell you a quick story, right? I just helped a lady out the other day. This is real stuff, right? She came to my event, the Party and Sober event. That's on my
I
website.
saw the advertising and your links
Yeah,
about that. That
she
was
came to my event, right? She didn't speak to me specifically. She spoke to one of my members, and they directed her to the main line, and the main line came to me. And when I picked up the phone, I had a lady crying, and she was telling me that she was ready to go into treatment. She didn't want to be out here no more, et cetera, et cetera, and she didn't know what to do. She was an older lady. She wasn't that young, and her situation was opiate use. So I got on the phone because at that time I'm not a treatment center. I'm a sober living transitional housing type of situation. And from her conversation, I knew she needed detox first and foremost. A lot of treatment centers because she wanted a long term treatment, but before that, I know that she needed detox. There was, you know how hard it was for us not only to contact people to assist us on getting this lady into a treatment program. You know how hard it was.
oh,
Now,
I
mind you,
can imagine.
now the thing is that the good thing is that she had me, and I'm not just saying me because it's me, but the good thing is she had me because once she landed on my doorstep, as far as consciously, I knew that I could not shut the door on her and let her out there alone. So every day until she got into that program, I was contacting whoever picked up the phone to help me. And there was a lot of people, I'm not gonna mention any names or agencies, there was a lot of people that shut the door.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, especially if they say they're there to help.
You know, they shut the door. Not only that, they're not equipped to continue a person along the way. They will hang up on you and say, sorry, I wish I can help you further. No, we need to be more educated, more resourceful.
That
Because
is
this
true.
lady was actually in the breaking point of giving up. She was telling me, Juan, I'm tired of these people telling me they only a 1 day detox. I'm like, wait a minute, I never heard of a 1 day detox. You sure that's what they're saying? Yeah, you should. So, Empowerment House wanted to be that wants to be that first choice when it comes to being able to be there when someone comes out of the treatment centers and incarceration, to be there to give them the proper stay, a safe and drug and environment. Because again, I know a lot of people that are leaving out of these situations happen to go back to a drug infested environment or
Right.
household. There's a lot of people that don't want to go back there but don't have nowhere else to go because one, there just ain't no place for them, or they don't know where to start. And Palmer House wants to be that pillar to let them know, listen, you can come here. Not only can you come here, we have the resources to give you on your continuum of care.
That's wonderful. And
Yeah,
it's a needed place. It's a needed program.
yeah, it's definitely needed a program. Again, for the people that may look at this, if you're in the New Jersey area, definitely we need all the help that we can need because best believe that Empowerment House has a drive to want to help the community and especially again in our target area, which is Trenton, New Jersey as a whole. If you're out there and if there's a way you can help us, become into existence as far as delivering our services, feel free to contact us. We're open.
How will they contact you?
But they can contact us again to go visit our website, which is empowermenthouseA23.org. They have all the contact numbers on there. That we have a dialogue box that you can go on. I would say that would be the best way to contact us. Also, our email is empowermenthouseA23@gmail.com. We're definitely in need of a good support system for as networking, alliances, grant writers, etc. Because I'll say this, and this I mean this, from the bottom of my heart, is that once we get that first building involved, it's gonna be a beautiful thing for a lot of people that are going to be coming out there because we're definitely going to be implying what I told you about, life skills, cooking meals, setting and achieving personal goals, maintaining and cleaning the living space, building healthy relationships, and, finding and maintaining employment, being able how to manage time, managing finances. All of these things are what's going to be played upon in our program. And I always say, and I want to say this, that for those that are interested to understand that we're not enablers. We're not enablers. It's going to be a strict process. The reason I say it's going to be a strict process because that's what helped me. to be in a strict process. And I'm not just talking about incarceration. I'm talking about as far as treatment, therapeutics. I was involved in a strict therapeutic program, which was structured and consistent, which
And it
allowed
has
me
to be, if
to.
it's going to be very successful, it has to be consistent, has to be structured, it has to be strict, or the program won't work.
Correct, definitely. And we're just here to just to help out, to become a pillar in our community. And I think that with the right people supporting us, as far as, again, I'm not just our community, but more or less the people that's holding these seats in our community, whether it's city council or senators, mayors, etc., governor. We need all the help that we can, because the epidemic out there is sad.
It is sad. The
It's
whole
sad.
situation's sad.
I never seen these many people on our traffic lights asking for money the way they are today.
Mhm. How
You
many
know,
people do you have in your program right now?
right now, again, we're more or less, we're working on the actual program as we speak. We have a lot of individuals that we mentor. I'm gonna say probably we got like at least 15 to 20 people right now that we mentor. That comes out to our events, that that come and, like I said, visit our websites, uh, help out with our food, our events that we're doing, right? But again, our target area is going to be people coming out of prisons and treatment centers right now. I think that's going to be our main focus. We're open to receive individuals from the streets after they're being, dealing with the detox and all that stuff. But our main focus is those individuals coming out. But we are open, right now, being that we don't have the building as we speak. We are in the process of speaking to our municipalities and other people to help us obtain that. We're just out there doing outreach. We're out there outreaching, visiting our communities, going to different events,
Okay.
passing out. We're working outside of our house in a sense. Passing out literature on the pharmacology of addiction, of different types of drugs. Supporting other organizations. As far as for the kids, we just did a food drive a couple weeks ago. Better Way is another program out here that's been a big source of our support. Smith Family Foundation, Baby J's Next Level Cut, New Jersey Wireless. We have that support system, but that's what helps us as what we're doing right now. To get to the next level, we're definitely looking for a good grant writer to assist us of obtaining our first building using our 501c3.
Okay.
And again, once we get that, our next interview, you're going to see that it's going to be a beautiful thing that we're going
Well,
to
I
be
plan
doing.
on coming back for another interview.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we'll probably jump off, but don't hang up when I stop the recording, because I've got some news for you. It was my pleasure to meet you and to hear your fascinating story. And I thank you for the work that you're doing. It's definitely needed. People need support, especially if they don't have any. And coming out of not only incarceration, but any type of addiction where you've had to fight to give that up, the drug use and the habit of everything that's involved with that, and that type of lifestyle is very challenging. And there's more to it than just walking out the doors of a rehab center. So
That's true.
I completely uphold everything that you're doing, and just keep it up. So
Yeah,
anybody
again, we
needs,
just want to be that continuum of care.
absolutely.
We just want to be that continuum of care, because, like you said, it's just, and I'll be honest with you, that was my situation. Luckily, I had a good support system. I ran into a woman that when I first came home, who is still my lady. Luckily, I had those two individuals, my family and her, because outside of that, I didn't have anything else other than my parole officer. As far as my barriers to maintain that. And I know, speaking today, that if I didn't have that, there's no telling whether or not I'd be sitting here wearing this empowerment shirt, having this interview with you. So by me
Might go
saying
right
that,
back in the incarceration system again.
you see what I'm saying, or dead, because a lot of my friends are dead or locked up for a long time.
Wow.
So the continuum of care I know that a lot of people may not be blessed of having that support system that soon coming out of prison because of the, the making amends and people having to repair relationships, and that process may be too long to where some people just be like, you know what, let me go back to what I know. So
Yeah.
we want to be that continuum of care. We want to be that person. Listen, you don't gotta worry about repairing no relationships right now. Worry about maintaining your recovery. Worry about maintaining that positive momentum. You know what I mean? Because that's the main key. Because like they said, you can want anything in life. Whether you want to be a professor, want to be a barber, want to be a mechanic. If you don't have your recovery under control, you'll never be a good mechanic, a good father, a good mother, et cetera, et cetera. So we want to be that person, or that barrier, or that, like I said, that bridge, that house that's going to help you stay empowered to live and step into your greatness.
That's awesome.
So
Well, thank you so much for
thank you for having me.
Yes.
Appreciate you reaching out, definitely. And I want to say people like you is the reason why I'm at today. Giving me an opportunity to, not only to share my story, but to more or less, display, my actions and my love for helping people, dealing with adversity to be more resilient.
And that's what we both want. That's why I do what I do.
Thank
Absolutely. Get
you.
the word out there.
Thank you for what you do. Definitely.
I appreciate that, and right back at you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Stay on. Have a
All right.
have a great night, everybody. And if you need to get in touch with him, go to his website, contact me. Go to thingsbybren.com. I'd be happy to lead you his way. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.